Gene Hackman's children already kind of knew not to expect any inheritance from their father's will. They were somewhat aware that their dad was only interested in leaving everything to his wife, Betsy. That's why communication between Gene and his kids may have been strained, at best. His daughters are fumbling around trying to figure out what comes next since Gene and Betsy are both gone, and Gene's children are now the next of kin. But their brother Chris is not sitting and waiting for the turbulent drama to unfold. He's getting out ahead of it all, and it seems like he knows exactly what his plans are. Let's talk about it on the Anything History channel. Gene and Betsy's deaths, separated by mere days, had already raised eyebrows. But the real bombshell came when the details of Hackman's will emerged. His children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, were left with absolutely nothing. No trusts, no assets, not even a sentimental trinket. The entire estate, worth an estimated $80 million, had been meticulously funneled to Betsy. At first, there was shock. Then there was silence. But silence doesn't mean inaction. Because while his sisters have remained quiet, one person has been missing in the entire equation: Gene Hackman's eldest son, Christopher Hackman. And now, we're hearing rumblings that Chris is making his move. The missing son, where has Chris Hackman been? Did you know one of the hardest things to find these days is an adult picture of Chris Hackman? And finding one with him and his sisters is even harder. Furthermore, a current picture, or one of recent times of Chris, as an older grown man with his father Gene, would be non-existent for the most part. Is that telling us something? Read between the lines, folks. Unlike his famous father, Christopher Hackman never sought the spotlight. He worked in Hollywood, but behind the scenes as a camera assistant and film editor. In his younger years, he had a rocky relationship with Gene, one that grew more distant over time. Insiders say that the divide between father and son widened to a point where Chris was almost completely cut out of Gene's life. But here's the thing: when money is involved, old wounds suddenly become fresh again. For weeks after his father's passing, Chris was nowhere to be seen. No statements, no public mourning. It was as if he had vanished. But according to sources, Chris wasn't gone, he was preparing. And what he was preparing for? A legal war. Now this is where things start heating up. Reports have surfaced that Chris Hackman has officially hired a high-powered California trust and estate attorney, Andrew M. Katzenstein. And if you know anything about inheritance battles, this is the first sign that someone is gearing up for a challenge. Chris isn't just curious about the will, he's preparing to fight it. If no one else is willing, you can bet Chris is getting ready to challenge every detail. He is about to make his father in death be the man he never was to him in life. Gene Hackman's will was ironclad, drafted nearly 2 decades ago, in 2005. It left everything to Betsy, and in the event of her death, her will instructed that the money go to charity. But here's the problem. Both Gene and Betsy are gone, and the conditions of their wills are now up for interpretation. Chris may argue that his father was manipulated, coerced, or simply not of sound mind when a will was created. He could push for an undue influence claim, which, if successful, could overturn the entire will. This wouldn't be easy, though. Gene Hackman was known for his sharp mind, even in his later years, and proving undue influence requires hard evidence. But with Betsy's passing, things get even more complicated. If she had lived, she could have defended the will. Now it's up to estate executors, trustees, and attorneys to battle it out. Here's where things get even messier. Chris isn't the only Hackman left standing. His sisters, Elizabeth and Leslie, are still here. But there's a major question: are they on his side? So far, neither of them has publicly supported Chris's decision to challenge the will. In fact, they've been eerily silent, as if waiting to see how things play out. Could this turn into a sibling war? If Chris pushes forward, will his sisters join him in the legal fight, or will they distance themselves? And more importantly, if they don't fight, could they be hoping for a quiet backdoor settlement instead? Because let's be real, an $80 million estate doesn't just disappear without someone trying to claim a piece of it. And we have the Hollywood lawyers smelling blood. Whenever a high-profile celebrity estate is up for grabs, you can bet that Hollywood's top lawyers will come running. And this situation is no different. Reports suggest that major law firms have been circling, offering their services to anyone with even the slightest claim. If Chris moves forward with his challenge, he won't be alone. He'll have some of the most aggressive estate lawyers in the country fighting for his case. But the question remains, does he have enough legal footing to actually win? The final showdown: who will walk away with Gene Hackman's fortune? The stage is set for a battle that could take years to resolve. If Chris successfully challenges the will, he could walk away with a massive fortune. If he fails, he leaves with nothing, his father's last act of disinheritance sealed forever. Meanwhile, if the will stands as is, Betsy's estate executors will have the final say. Will they honor her wishes and donate everything to charity? Or will there be loopholes, settlements, or quiet payoffs to make the problem disappear? At the end of the day, this is more than just an inheritance battle. It's a story of family betrayal, long-standing resentments, and a fortune hanging in the balance. Who do you think should win? Should Chris fight back? Or should Gene Hackman's final wishes be honored? Let's discuss in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because trust me, this story is just beginning and is far from over.